Who is the cruelest villain among the Money Heist team? And what city name does the professor have? Because yes, he does have a name. Hi, I'm Dylan. Let's break down all those dark criminal records of the characters. And beware of spoilers. Tokyo. Her real name is Silene Oliveira, and she's perhaps one of the most controversial characters in the Heist team. Tokyo is both professional and impulsive, mature and immature, deadly and sensitive. And on top of all that, she's one of the main characters and the narrator. We don't know too much about her childhood yet, though we've heard a little bit about her mother, who tried to turn her in, and about her tragic loss. Yes, the love of Tokyo's life was shot dead during their robbery mission. That's why Silene decided to become a selfish survivor. She didn't need anyone. She tried her best to do her job professionally. But then love came in and ruined everything. Indeed, the most illogical things Tokyo has done was because of her love for Rio. The worst thing she did throughout the entire series, though, was leaving Rio on that island. It was selfish and not so smart. Because if she hadn't left Rio, there would be no second heist. To some degree or another, she's responsible for Nairobi's death. And who knows who we'll lose in the 5th season, right? But were Tokyo's acts the worst out of everybody in the team? Let's move on to find out. Moscow. His name is Agustin Ramos, and he is a professional robber. Or rather, he was a professional robber, because we all remember that tragic scene in Season 2 where Moscow was shot by the police. Agustin Ramos' first job was a professional miner in Asturias, though later his skill was used for digging tunnels through walls. Sounds like the perfect talent for the professor's team, right? But just like many characters in the heist gang, Moscow's main goal wasn't money. It was all about saving his troubled son, Denver. If Denver hadn't lost those pills, Moscow would have never thought of putting them both in such a risky scheme. Moscow was one of the wisest and kindest characters in the crew. We can't even name any of his dark sides or bad actions. Well, if we don't take into account that he's a criminal. And yes, he lied to his son about his drug-addicted mother, but it was only to make their lives better. And luckily, Denver forgave him before he passed away. We miss you, Moscow. Miss you a lot. Denver. Like father, like son. This is something that cannot be said about Moscow's son, Denver. His real name is Daniel Ramos, and if we're talking about biggest mistakes, Denver's was losing those drug dealers' pills. Denver had a tough life. His mother was a drug addict, and his father was a criminal. Chances were high that he'd also get on a slippery slope. Denver grew up thinking that his mother abandoned both him and his father, which made them super close. Most probably all of these were the reasons why Denver became such a hothead. The interesting side of him is how sensitive and protective he is about Monica. Seriously. The man who gave Arturo a gun and asked him to shoot him also saved the life of a woman he barely knew. He's a man with a big heart. There's a theory on the internet about Denver that says he has never actually forgiven Tokyo. Remember him blaming her for his father's death? That may play its own part in Season 5. Denver still has a chance to show his darkest side and turn against Tokyo. Do you think this could happen? Could Denver possibly become the biggest villain in Money Heist? Stockholm. Her real name is Monica Gaztimbre, and she has probably the best reason to become a member of the heist team. Being the secretary of Arturo Roman, she never expected to become a hostage, right? More than that, she never expected to be murdered by Berlin's order. Luckily, Denver saved her life, which in some degree or another started Stockholm Syndrome, or real love? Who knows? But anyways, she appreciated the way everybody treated her in the gang, except for Berlin of course, and decided to join them. Was that the biggest mistake of her life? Too early to tell. Yes, she married Denver, and they truly love each other and have a child, Cincinnati. But the heist isn't over yet, and love never gets a happy ending in Money Heist. Nairobi. Her real name is Agata Jimenez, a former forger and drug dealer who had her own tragic reason to become a heist team member. Because of her criminal past, she lost custody of her 3-year-old son, Axel. She decided to break bad, get rich, and take her son back. Though life turned out way different to what she expected. Axel was adopted, and Nairobi almost accepted that painful fact. Her son would be much better off with a different family rather than with her. She planned to have another child. After everything, it would turn out for the best. And then the police intruded, and Nairobi's dream about reuniting with her son Axel takes a tragic turn. She was shot as she stepped close to the window, willing to see Axel. Yes, she recovered from that shot, only to die from another bullet. So what was Nairobi's biggest mistake ever? We don't want to judge her character, as her loss was probably the most painful for us. We miss you, Nairobi, same as we miss Moscow, but not the same as we miss Berlin. His real name is Andre de Fonalosa. We know his name since the professor, who's revealed to be his younger brother, intentionally left his suit button in the car. Hashtag the brother of the year. We don't know too much about Berlin's early life, but after the police find his button, we hear some things about his past. And perhaps the most shocking one is that he has Helmer's myopathy. Berlin didn't have much time left because of his disease, which of course reflected the way he lived. Married 5 times, lots of jewelry store robberies, a prison stint, the heist of the Royal Mint, and finally, the planning of the Bank of Spain heist. Berlin made a lot of horrible choices in his life, though probably the most disgusting one is the way he treated his hostage, Ariadna. It seemed like he projected all of his previous pain from past relationships onto the poor girl. Berlin ended his life truly dramatically, and by the code of the underworld. Did you like his character? Or did you always consider him to be a horrible psychopath and the worst villain of all? We didn't. Let's move on. Helsinki and Oslo. The real names of the cousins are Mirko and Radko Dragic. They were always close to each other. The reason the professor recruited them was because of their soldiers' past. Yes, the cousins fought alongside each other during the Yugoslav wars, and that experience seemed very useful for the heist team in case anything didn't go according to plan. Despite the fact that they look alike, there are some differences. Oslo doesn't speak Spanish well. That's why he doesn't speak much, or at all. Unfortunately, we didn't have a chance to find out a lot about Oslo because he died pretty quickly in Season 1. We miss you, mate. Helsinki is gay and was very actively in search of a partner. He even almost got Arturo, though he ended up in a relationship with Palermo. Knowing now that Palermo is a traitor, we can say that that was a huge mistake. Poor Helsinki. Rio. His real name is Anibal Cortez, and he's the youngest member of the heist gang. The professor hired him because of his outstanding cyber skills. Rio comes from a very ethical and loving family who truly believed that he was just playing computer games in his room, not hacking bank security systems, which might be the biggest mistake of his life if not for one other thing, falling in love with Tokyo. Because that was the professor's #1 rule. Do not start a relationship with each other. This could have been an ideal heist if the two hadn't started their romance. But not only was the plan ruined, but Rio's heart was destroyed as well. As we've said before, Tokyo is a survival type, and she warned Rio she wasn't looking for a serious relationship. But the heart of the noble teenager was too soft for playing her games. That's why he paid a painful price. Lisbon. Her real name is Raquel Morillo, and she's from the police. Raquel is one of the smartest people in this story. At the beginning of Season 1, she had the world's troubles on her shoulders, a single mother whose ex wanted to take her child away. She also had a tough time leading the terrorist negotiations and dealing with military intelligence, as well as with her assistant Angel who fell in love with her. That was definitely a tough time for Raquel Morillo. And here's where she made her biggest mistake. She fell in love with the professor. And no matter how hard her assistant Angel tried to convince her otherwise, she was fooled by the professor. 'Cause love is a bitch in Money Heist. Palermo. His real name is Martin Barotti, and he's a true psychopath. That's why he got along so well with Berlin. They both masterminded the heist plan for the Bank of Spain, and when Rio was imprisoned by the government, the professor had no other choice but to deal with Palermo. Or did he? Because from the beginning, it was clear that Palermo is out of his mind. Anyways, nobody expected how bad things would turn out with Martin Barotti. And when Tokyo said that she'd be the leader of their heist, Palermo, let's just say, he got a little upset. Talking about biggest mistakes, Palermo himself is the biggest mistake. He calmed down a little at the end of Season 4, but you know what? We don't trust this guy. We're sure he'll play his own dirty game in the next part of Money Heist. Do you consider him the most horrible villain of the show? We find someone to be way crueler than Palermo. The Professor. His real name is Sergio Marquina, and he doesn't need any big introduction. His dream was to continue the dream of his father, steal tons of money without actually robbing anyone. Because he wanted to take only newly printed money from the Royal Mint, right? He's the mastermind of the first heist. He meticulously planned every step and invented brilliant rules for everybody. He only forgot one thing: people break rules, and nothing can be done about that. And by the way, the professor also disobeyed his own rule. He's in a relationship with Lisbon, and things didn't change for the best since, being together in the heist team, he can't concentrate on his job since Lisbon is so close to him now. Which brings us back to the question we started with. Who is the biggest villain of the show? We think it's love. An unfulfilled love that rebels the hearts and pushes people to do dangerous acts. That heartbreaking love is truly the biggest villain of Money Heist. But we don't want to finish this video on a bad note. That's why we have a cool fact for you. Do you know that the professor also has a city name? Not an official one, but still. Here's what the actor who plays him, Alvaro Morte, said. The concept of what it is fits him, but we have to remove the religious components. This would be Vatican City. It's a state city, a very small one. But like the professor, it's always shielded, and at the same time, it has a great power all over the world, Morte said. Nice touch, isn't it? Thank you guys for watching this video. Subscribe to our channel, love each other, and be loved. And most importantly, stay awesome.